What is up, my Squirtle It is I, your king, welcoming you back to more Let's Play Destiny. In the last episode, we made it here to the Dreaming City to begin our reintroduction to Forsaken. After so many years of leaving it by the wayside, we are back. And not because I didn't enjoy Forsaken, I actually enjoyed it so much that I got so distracted by it in real life that I forgot to make videos for it. So we're back. We're here. We're going to be going through Forsaken, and man, do I love this place. It's also helped by the fact that I am now Let's Playing this on PlayStation 5. I probably forgot to mention that if you were wondering if I was playing this on PC or not, because the frame rate is so much smoother now and the graphics are even better. This is on PS5. This game just looks absolutely gorgeous now. I mean, it already looked beautiful, but they have somehow managed to make it even better. I mean, just look at that. Just look at that skybox. Ugh, what a gorgeous game. Today, we are going to be taking a look at the Dreaming City as a whole. What the Dreaming City patrol space entails. I mean, it's pretty standard for the most part. It's got its, usual patrol missions, which there are a couple of patrol missions that are nice and exclusive here to the Dreaming City. It's got public events. It's got chests you can grab. It's got its own destination material known as Barian Bow, which you can pick up for some additional glimmer, and it's got lost sectors. We're going to be starting today by heading on into this lost sector, which is the Bay of Drowned Wishes. But before we do that, I need to acquaint you guys with my Hunter again. Hunter is my favorite subclass. I already said this a couple episodes ago, but I'm going to reiterate it again. This is my favorite, favorite class in the entire game. Always has been. Because it has a very independent sort of play style, and that's not to say that I don't play this game with people, because I do. I mean, it would be kind of hard to enjoy this game entirely solo. Maybe that's disingenuous. This game is better when it's enjoyed with friends, but having access to that solo playstyle is what I like about Hunter so much. That's not to say Warlocks and Titans don't also do it very well. It's just the nature of the way that Hunter plays. Hunters are not so much speedy characters, but they are very weapons focused and very much focused more on control in the air as opposed to just movement in general. There's a lot of control, a lot of precision behind how Hunter is meant to be played, and I think that's what makes it so nice. It's got a lot of finesse to it that Warlocks and Titans don't have. We're going to be going into the subclasses here really quickly, just so I can explain how this works. So, in Destiny 1, subclasses were a tree, essentially. You had 3 rows with, technically 4 rows, but 3 rows of abilities. You could only pick, one perk in each column on the 3 rows, if that makes sense. You could pick your jump, you could pick your grenade. There were a couple of things that adjusted your stats. There were some abilities that you could switch between, things like that, but that's how you would spec into your subclass. In Destiny 2, they completely streamlined the system, and they basically limit it so that you only had 3 options. You had a top tree, a bottom tree, and then later with Forsaken, they added a middle tree. These picked your super, your abilities, basically everything except for your grenade, class ability, and your jump. Everything else even your melee, was tied to those specific trees. Finally, with the advent of the Witch Queen in 2022, they started to make some changes to the subclass system and make it more customizable than ever. So if we take a look here at the Arc subclass, which was the last one that Bungie actually changed, you will see a couple things here. So really quickly, and maybe I shouldn't even show Arc. I should actually show Void for this. It's a better example. Here in Void, we have access to 3 different types of supers that I can switch between. Not every subclass has 3. Some of them only have 2. There's a couple that... Actually, I think they all have at least 2. But you can switch between your supers and you can see what they do. It explains how they work. It tells you that they can weaken and suppress, what weakening and suppression does. There's actual tooltips here that explain how these supers work. Now, you actually want to use them to fully grasp and understand how they work. But effectively, these are both Shadow Shot, but different variations of Shadow Shot. And this is Spectral Blades, which is an entirely different super. It's a roaming super as opposed to these, which are supers you activate once effectively. But then you have all of these abilities that can be changed. You got your class abilities. You can switch between dodges, although I need to unlock them. You got your jumps. You got your melee type, although Void only has snare bombs. Some will have up to 2 or 3 melee abilities. And then you have grenades. And grenades are awesome because for the longest time, Specific grenades were tied to specific classes. Scatter Grenade, for instance, was only on Warlocks. Vortex Grenade was only on Warlocks and Titans. Suppressor Grenade was only on Titans. Void Wall Grenade was only on Hunters. Spike Grenade was only on Hunters and, I think, Warlocks. Magnetic Grenade was only on Titans, and Axion Bolt was only on Warlocks. As you can see, every class has access to all grenades now, so that's good. However, some classes are still able to take advantage of it more than others. A good example of this is the Arc Storm Grenade. Titans are able to use it much more effectively than Hunters are, and slightly more effectively than Warlocks can. Aspects are basically the same, are basically just those abilities that were within the subclass trees that you already had before. So for instance, Stylish Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. This was an ability that was already inherent to the middle tree early on. You have Trapper's Ambush. This activates quick fall, and you can actually do a dive to the ground that makes you invisible. And lastly is a Vanishing Step. This is the dodge that made you invisible that Hunters have pretty much had since, I want to say, the Taken King in Destiny 1. All of these are different aspects that you can add. Now, the aspects themselves give you fragment slots, and fragment slots are important because, well, fragments themselves are what's new to this whole subclass system. So fragments are the most expensive things to get. They are the hardest things to get. We talked about them when we went and saw Ikora a couple of episodes ago. But these are all of the supplemental abilities. So, like, you just kind of look through these. They all give you, or they don't all give stat boosts, but they can give you stat boosts or stat decreases and penalties and things like that, while also giving you other little abilities and little additions to the things that you already have. So like a very good example here. This one just makes your grenades that last a while last even longer. Void Spike, Vortex Grenade, Void Wall, etc. This one right here, Final Blows, when surrounded by combatants, grant super energy. So it emphasizes a playstyle that allows you to be up close and personal, for instance. This one here, defeating weakened targets with precision final blows will create an orb of power because they are not as easy to create outside of supers anymore. Echo of Instability, defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your void weapons. Volatile rounds are basically explosive rounds that will be attached to any void weapon for a certain amount of time that will cause them to explode and chain explosions to enemies around them. Things of that nature. Every single subclass has lots of fragments you can search through, aspects to play with, and basically more customization than it's ever had before. To get into my Arc subclass, let's just do this real quick. My super is Gathering Storm. This is a single cast ability. They still do have Arc Staff. It still exists, but finally they added a single cast ability this year. It's incredibly high damage. It has lingering damage. It's very, very good. I'll show it off here in a bit. It's awesome. I love it. I have basically been glued to it ever since they released it. You typically go with Gambler's Dodge because Arc Strider is a very melee-heavy class, so it's nice to be able to get your melee back. Triple Jump because it allows for more control. Blink is still good, but it's more of a PvP ability. Allows you to get in and out of situations fast. Combination Blow. This is a melee that heals you, and if you chain it with the dodge, effectively you can melee to heal, dodge, come back to melee to heal again, and on top of that, the more melee hits you get with Combination Blow, the more it stacks its damage and makes it stronger. I have Storm Grenade just because it's got good coverage. I got Lethal Current here. After dodging, your next melee attack has increased lunge range, jolts the target, which basically allows them to shock enemies around them if they take additional damage, and it creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with melee attacks also blinds them, so you're able to incapacitate them. This is very useful on big, powerful enemies surrounded by a lot of trash enemies. Flow State. This one is defeat a jolted target, makes you amplified. Amplified is a state that your character can go into that makes them sprint faster for a short amount of time and also makes your abilities recharge faster, I believe, and also your weapons reload faster. You can continuously recharge Amplified by using arc weapons, dealing arc damage, things like that, and there are ways of extending this within the fragments. But while you're Amplified, your dodge recharges more quickly, you are more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. All that is active. Obviously, you can get rid of some of those benefits by switching to Lethal Current. I will not, because I do not like Lethal Current. I think it is kind of toss. Or not lethal. Is it Lethal Current? No, I meant Tempest Strike. That's what I meant. Tempest Strike is basically just an alternate melee ability. You slide on the ground and you're able to create like an arc wave. It's pretty good, but it's just not as good as everything else. Then we have our fragments. So the fragments that I've spec'd into, while critically wounded, your melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly, allows you to get a lot of get out of jail free cards should you start to get low on health. Spark of Magnitude, your lingering arc grenades, as like my Storm Grenade, last longer. Spark of Momentum, sliding over ammo bricks, reloads your equipped weapon, and grants a small amount of melee energy. It's just nice to have that auto reload by sliding. And then Spark of Beacons. While you're amplified, your arc special weapon final blows create a blinding explosion. There is one in here that actually makes amplification last a little bit longer. I think it's this one here. No, this is the one that creates a binding explosion. I know there's one in here somewhere. I don't think I actually have it at the moment. Possibly, maybe. I don't know, but we're going to be switching those around quite a bit as we playing with that stuff a little bit more. Let's head on into the Bay of Your Own Wishes. I think we've spent enough time outside of it. This is going to be a couple of episodes going through everything here in the Dreaming City, so just bear with me. But now I shouldn't have to explain subclasses again, thankfully, because I'm going to have to purchase a lot of those aspects and fragments as we go. Now, as we head on in here, I've got an auto rifle, I've got a special grenade launcher. This is a tube loader grenade launcher, and then I've got a linear fusion rifle as my heavy. Now, this auto rifle is slow firing. It's pretty all right. It's not super amazing or anything. As you can see, we have a big guy down there. I'm going to use that to take care of him because it's a nice way of one-shotting. And as we proceed throughout this place, there are lots and lots of traps everywhere. Explosive servitor eyes, slow traps that pop up from the ground that you have to destroy before they go off. And then these enemies that appear here, which we've seen in the Forsaken campaign called Screebs, just spawn everywhere. And if you think everywhere is what we're getting right now, you ain't seen nothing yet. All right. Now, I want to show how this grenade works really quickly because it's actually kind of cool, this grenade launcher. So this grenade launcher is what is known as a wave frame. Wave frame grenade launchers are not projectiles. They don't shoot little bombs that explode. They actually create a wave along the ground like that, and they take out everything in a preset path. They are incredibly good grenade launchers, but you do still want to get one with relatively good perks before you commit yourself to it too much. But I am going to be using that thing, at least for a little bit, while we make our way through this first lost sector. Now, I'm going to use that. You can see it takes these guys out easily, which is nice because they have the shields in the way. Got some more Screebs there, so let's take them out. Luckily, their chain explosions all blow each other up, and then we got this guy over here. Now, here comes some more Screebs. Take them out. And now we get into the crazy part. Now there's a whole lot of them. Use your grenade. Use your grenade. Keep them at bay. Shoot them from the top if you have to. Whatever. Just make sure that they all keep their distance. And there you go. Once all of them have been defeated, this door will suddenly open and you're good. But we're not going to go through that door just yet. So if we hearken back to our Ascendant Challenge that we picked up in the last episode, remember, Bay of Drowned Wishes, and what did the tooltip say again? Something like drowning in your wishes. There it is. Drown in your wishes, dear squanderer. When we walked into this place, there was a little message that popped up in the bottom right of my screen that said something about feeling a presence of some kind, some weird feeling. Well, if I go into my inventory and I equip this thing right here, a tincture of Queensfoil, this appears. There is one of these portals in whatever location you're meant to go to, and you can only see it as long as you have equipped a tincture of Queensfoil. These tinctures of Queensfoil last for 30 minutes, and you can even see the timer if you go into your menu right here. 29:43, it's counting down. It's called True Sight. With this, you can actually jump into this portal, and thus begins the Ascendant Challenge. This first Ascendant Challenge is essentially just platforming. It's very, very simple. But if you lose the Ascendant Challenge and you die in it, you will be kicked out of the Ascendant Challenge and you'll have to start over from scratch. That glowing ball of light right there, that is Toland. But it is not the Toland that I am actually in pursuit of, so I'm going to have to continue to go. But he will effectively guide you through the challenge. You need to be very careful with your jumps here because as we get further and further through this place, the geometry is going to get a bit more difficult, allowing you to bounce off more easily. It's much easier to accidentally fall to your death. There's weird slopes and angles and all those sorts of things, and you just kind of need to make your way down as you go. Now, you see there are two glowing balls of lights as we get down here. One of these is going to vanish when I get close. The other one is not. Let's go up to it.
Come now. You'll have to be cleverer than this to break through. Sharpen yourself. Make ready.
And there we go. That is the Toland we were looking for. He is only ever available within the Ascendant challenges, and then also he is inside of the dungeon here in the Dreaming City. You can also get that quest done there, although that is a little bit more, well, I guess it's not complicated because he usually appears in the first encounter, but we'll have to show that off a little bit later. But in doing that, we should have unlocked ourselves some piece of Dreaming City gear, which I'll get when I turn that bounty in. But we'll do that a little bit later. Let's continue to follow this path, and we're trying to make it all the way down to that lit up thing all the way down there. It's got like a giant dark orb above it all the way over there. That's where we're trying to get to. But just trying to jump straight to it isn't going to work too well. There are ways of cheesing this, and as you can see, now the platforms are starting to rotate. There are ways of cheesing this, but it's not advisable unless you already know the path. Hunter and I believe Titan can do it the easiest, but Warlock's not so much. And with Hunter, you kind of need to have Arc Strider so you can do the super dive to actually make it down there, but you got to be really precise on your angles. So is this one actually rotating? I don't think it is, so we should be safe to land on it. Make sure you give yourself a bit of give when you land on these. Don't land too close to an edge or you'll go flying off if you're not careful. Now we can make the jump down. And here begins the last part of the challenge. This part's really easy, but do be aware that there is a bit of combat involved. So once we get here, it says Toland beckons you. We need to go find Toland, who is right here. Once we do that, the fight begins. The corruption spreads. So now we get some of these. These taken blights will start to appear all over the place. Little shadow thralls will start to spawn, and they'll start to chase us around. These are all being summoned by 2 taken wizards. These are ultras based on their health bars, as you can see, and we want to take each of them out. So let's do that. I'm going to get rid of its shield first. Do a little bit of damage. Here, let's try that. There we go. There's some damage. And there is, if I can land the shot, another one. Perfect. And there goes the first one. All right, let's get the next one. Take care of its shield really quickly. And I'm sure those Shadow Thrall are going to start chasing me down here in a second, so let's melee them. With the further ones, you'll start to get taken phalanxes, which can boop you around, which is very upsetting, especially because if you're next to any cliffs, that can just outright kill you. But there we go. Not too bad. Honestly, I really took my time with that. I could have just brute forced it with a power weapon, but very simple. That's the whole Ascendant challenge. Some of these are harder than others. So once we open the chest, we finish the quest, and we get ourselves another piece of gear. We get a Tincture of Queensfoil refunded for our troubles, and some Dark Fragments as well. All pretty darn good. Now let's jump through the portal, and we're back in the Bay of Drowned Wishes. Very, very simple. Now before I do anything else, I'm also going to turn in these really quickly so I can get myself a couple more pieces of gear. We got Sleepless, which is a Dreaming City power weapon. Came with tracking module, which is actually pretty good on a rocket, and impact casing, which is also really good on a rocket, but rangefinder, not so much. It just kind of, it makes the projectile velocity a little faster, which I guess on this type of frame is okay, but there are definitely perks I would much rather have than rangefinder personally. I mean, I don't know. That's not too bad of a roll. I would say that one is serviceable. We also got ourselves a couple of helmets. Now, unfortunately, and I got to burst anyone's bubble who gets excited about this stuff, as pretty as this armor looks, unless you are getting it in the dungeon, it's always going to be functionally useless. The rolls on the armor that you get in the Dreaming City all suck. They're only ever good inside the dungeon because you're basically looking for any armor that has a stat level above a 60 if you can help it. Usually higher. You typically want to shoot for 63 or more. So once we get in here, we're going to have some Scorn to deal with, a few more. And that guy is going to spawn one of these to entrap me. I've got a few of these Ravagers to take out, so let's do that. Make sure to shoot their lanterns. And once all of that is done, I'm going to show you how this super works now. So you got to line this up, because if you miss, you're in trouble here. That right there spawns a giant spear that causes a whole lot of damage. And look, it just instantly killed the boss. You couldn't see him because he was behind the rock. But this lingers for a little bit and basically just wipes out everything within the vicinity of it. It is insane the amount of damage that it does. Also, from killing all of those with Arc, I was able to get amplified, and now you can see it in action, how fast I'm moving, the glow around my weapon, all those sorts of things. What I actually really like about Amplified is while it increases your sprint speed, as long as you stay sprinting, even if Amplified goes away, you continue to keep that sprint speed. It also actually makes your jump a little bit higher as well. But that is the first Lost Sector here in the Dreaming City. Looks like we probably don't have time to do the other one, so we're going to have to wait until the next episode. We'll be jumping into the Strand in the next episode, and then finally Rhea Silvia. I think we'll have time to do both of those. The only other patrol-based things I really want to show off here in the Dreaming City is the specific type of patrol, as well as the one... Well, I guess there's technically 2 unique public events here in the Dreaming City as well that we'll have to do at some point. But aside from that, I do plan on showing every single one of the Ascendant challenges, but those are on a weekly rotation, so I can't obviously do them right now. Oh, there's actually this public event right here. Oh, interesting. I wonder if it's doable. Let's try it. Why not? Let's do this before we end this episode. So this public event right here, Rift Generator. This is extremely exclusive to this area and this area alone of the Dreaming City. Now, why is that? Well, it's because the Rift is that thing right there. What's going to happen is that a bunch of enemies are going to spawn in a preset direction, either to the right, the left, or straight ahead of the Rift Generator. You want to kill them all. You want to kill them all and also make sure that the core itself doesn't get hurt too bad by the enemies. Eventually, you'll be able to fight some abominations that will drop a core that allows you to heal the Rift for, I think, like 25% of its health. So it's not super amazing or anything, but it's something. But after you wipe out that set of enemies, this is the important part for getting the heroic. A black Taken Orb, which they already shot out, is going to spawn right overhead of the location where all of those enemies are at. You need to shoot this orb with your weapons before it descends into the ground and disappears. Once you have done that with all 3 sections, then the heroic variant of this event will spawn. It'll all make sense in due time. Okay, we definitely want to make sure we focus on these snipers here because they will do absolutely the most damage to this core if you're not careful. Luckily, I actually have help here, so I can get this done. But it is you got to be vigilant here with those snipers because they're going to cause a whole lot of problems for you. So the other group is going to spawn here soon. There's the orb I was talking about. Make sure you shoot that until it goes away. It doesn't take too many shots, but you just got to make sure you catch it before it disappears because it only lasts for, I want to say, like 10 or 15 seconds. You got to be fast. All right. And so actually all the orbs have been shot out. Now we have wizards spawn. We need to kill all of these wizards. And apparently I can't get them with the wave frames. They're too high up, which is fine. But once you kill the wizards, you will be sent to an Ascendant area. Now, we have more wizards to kill. Take them all out one at a time, as fast as you can. And once you have destroyed all of them, the boss will spawn. Or I guess the boss is already there, but then you actually can start damaging it. So there we go. Wait for that rift to descend down into the boss. There's a bunch of thrall that will also spawn, and there we go. Now we can start damaging it. And once you kill this boss, the public event is done. The normal way of finishing the public event is to just effectively protect the rift. That's it. The rift generator. There's not really any more to it. You can see I got another Tincture of Queen's Foil from that. Pretty good reward. And also, I believe one of the Scorn dropped a Corsair down, which we'll be getting into a little bit later. But it was a little bit sloppy, but it effectively got the message across of how that public event works. You can only do it here in this particular location of the Dreaming City. This public event is not reprised anywhere else. And honestly, as cool of a public event as it is, it can be very frustrating to do solo. Probably the most frustrating public event to do solo. So I guess it's kind of a good thing it's not everywhere else. So yeah, there's all that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it for this episode of Destiny. I hope you all enjoyed it very, very much. Next episode, we're going to be taking on some more Lost Sectors. We're going to investigate a couple of additional things. Might take a look at this Corsair down if we have the time. And I'm also going to switch up my weapons a little bit and move on from there. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.